All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am so glad you're here today. It's yet another one of my favorite episodes. We're talking about AgencyOne. And if you've listened to the other ones, then I know you're going to be excited about this one because you've already heard Jace once before. And he's here again today to educate us even more on what's going on. If you haven't listened to those before, here's your opportunity to go back in time, check those out, and then come back to this one if you want to. And while you're there, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, 5-star review, all the whole nine. But you've been working pretty closely with AgencyOne.
Yeah, so Jace is the leader of AgencyOne on the product side. He's the brains behind the operation, and August Butterbrought is his right-hand man when it comes to all things data. The guy is wicked smart. You may have to pause and rewind on some of his answers because they're just that good. So these two are going to they're gonna make a dynamic duo and tell us about the back-end magic of AgencyOne. We've talked a lot about the front-end side of things. Now we're going to get into the infrastructure.
I love how you went Boston on that. Went wicked smart.
Wicked smart. But I think it's like wicked smart in your car. So go park your car. You got to look under the hood. You know, hey, this one is really looking under the hood of the car.
Yes.
And seeing how this thing operates.
Oh, let's go. Let's go.
Let's go. Jace Hopper.
Yes, the man
Welcome.
himself.
Yes.
Let's go.
This guy's like 2 or 3 time now guest on the show, I think. So he's a regular. We may have to have your own segment in the future.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, I do have a very, very important question that I know I want to know,
up.
and I think the world wants to know, honestly.
They do.
If you, would you rather have be a one-hit wonder, have that one song that makes you $1 gazillion for a million years, or have a long career where you're on the road and you're
that's
traveling?
a good question for Jace.
And you're spending that time on the road and doing all of that. Or
You
knock
know,
it out with a one-hit wonder.
Probably not the one-hit wonder, to
Really?
be honest.
Ooh,
Okay.
I like it. I like it.
I like the longevity, right? Because you make a difference for people, especially from a music sense, right? People it becomes part of them. One-hit wonders is,
Yep.
oh yeah, I remember that one song, but
Yep.
that's it.
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh, you know?
that's true. That's true. I would say the same thing, but for a different reason, just because I love the limelight and the stage and, all all of that kind of stuff. So I would love that every day, every night. But the one-hit wonder would be kind of cool to be Vanilla Ice and have that one song that is still sang by karaoke's all over the world and people love. And he's probably still making money off of that. But
I will say for me, it would be one-hit wonder only because of the fact that I'm what they consider a jack of all trades. So I would want to venture out.
You want to see what is the grass green on the other side.
Well, it's not even it's going to be green all the time because I'm making millions of dollars off of one song. However, I want to be on on other things. I want to do other stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. I like that.
It's like my sugar daddy.
Yeah.
Sid, real quickly, you one-hit wonder or long career?
Long career for sure. Yeah, for sure.
There you
I
go.
do not. I think if you would have asked me like 2.5 years ago, I would have said one-hit wonder, but at this point, long career.
I got you. Okay, so a quick follow-up to that, and then we're gonna get into the good stuff. But Jace, if you could, you see a lot of these people that'll go from that to acting. Would you try the acting chops if you had that long career? Would you try to venture out into something else too?
Why not, right?
Okay.
Expand your rings. I mean, right? It's
Love it.
about learning, right? You don't want to stop learning, right?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
So.
I love that
I love
answer.
it. I do too. Okay, so you obviously, as I alluded to a minute ago, you've been on the show before, and we've talked about AgencyOne multiple times on this show, and people are loving hearing about it, and we keep talking about it. But we've focused a lot of our attention, our conversations on like the front end, and we've talked about the user experience changing. We talked about new design, new connectivity. We had a great podcast not too long ago with Daniela and Kelly talking about all those things, but I think, people want to know what's going on in the back end, and I would love for you to tell me a little bit, I know it's a loaded question, but what's going on in the back end? Can you give me a high-level summary of what that is, what the back end work is?
Sure. So, Vertafore has been around for a long time, right? We've grown through acquisition in a lot of ways. And so there's a lot of different tech stacks that we're dealing with when it comes to technology footprint and sort of the foundation. So think different database technologies, think different UI technologies and even how we expose certain things. And so really, focusing on how do we basically simplify that, right? And make it easier for us to build. Because if we can simplify some of that on the back end, right, it makes it easier for us to develop features and functions more quickly. Mm-hmm. And so there's 3 areas that we're focusing on, mostly on the OneCore side, and it's the one architecture. So really open architecture, really thinking about the APIs and being open, right? How do we make sure that we're giving the data to the people when they need it? Mm-hmm. The second piece is data, right? August has spent a ton of time talking about unified data, and I know we'll probably hit on that a little bit more today, but really making sure that we can have consistency in how our data is delivered to our customers. And then the third is that modern cloud infrastructure, really partnering with Amazon, and not just from, again, that cloud infrastructure, but really partner with them to develop new capabilities and deliver value faster to our customers. So there's a big transformation, right, that we're going through, and all those things are fundamental to doing that.
Can we dig in a little deeper on those 3? Can we dig into those 3 things? Why is open architecture so important?
Because our tools serve a purpose in the industry, right? And they serve a very large proportion of how our customers are interacting with policies and their own customers, but it's not everything, right? And so many of our customers are using other tools, or they have built their own infrastructure, they've built their own capabilities to service their brokers to be more effective at what they do. And in order to do that, right, we have to expose integrations to our products so that they can be more cohesive in how they think about their full suite of products outside of Vertafore. Mm-hmm. And so we really, we have a huge partnership program with our Orange Partner Program. We continue to add more. And most importantly, we continue to add APIs to our ecosystem to really build out that full functionality that we need in those integrations.
So I know one of the things you've been really focused on, I would say. I mean, you have so much on your plate that you're managing and leading the team on, but I would say a pet project of yours has been around the API ecosystem, specifically looking at how to centralize the APIs. Could you talk a little bit about what that means in terms of, I guess, from the technical side of things, but then also on the business outcome side? Like, why do centralized APIs or a centralized API locus mean something to agencies and integration partners?
Yeah, for the regular user, to be honest, it doesn't really mean much. But to those from the CIO and the tech side who are building these integrations, it means a lot, right? These folks are managing API connections to all of our products, and every single one of them has different security models. Mm-hmm. So having one security model, right, would be a lot easier to manage. Second piece is being able to understand the reporting and usage against those APIs for those customers, right? So being able to centralize that into one place, and then building out that fully functional set of data that is consistent. And so we have a lot of stuff that does exist, but we haven't exposed a lot of it in some cases to our customers, and being able to expose that through a central platform that they can sort of decide what type of access they want, et cetera, really makes it more simple for them and us to manage that integration to enable sort of their tech ecosystem. There's a lot of cool value to it, and it really, there's so much more you can do with it as well, that we're just barely touching the surface of in terms of, building out more functionality that simplifies the world for them.
I want to bring August into this conversation. Welcome to the show, August.
August, what's up, man?
How's it going?
Man, it's going good, especially talking about AgencyOne and what we've got going on here. But I want to talk to you a little bit about the data delivery project, and it's been such a big hit. What's the purpose of this initiative? How's it been received by the market? If you could just lead me down that a little bit.
Yeah, so I think kind of echoing a little bit about what Jace talked about, like the open architecture concepts, clients are trying to get access to their data to either perform and execute on their own data strategies or find or work with other partners to execute on that strategy and vision. And by bringing that data from a data delivery perspective into one common place, we can actually create a centralized place to get access to your data from the core Vertafore products. And so we launched AMS 360 in October of last year. And by the end of this year, we'll have Benefit Point, ImageRight, and Sajida and Risk Match stood up through that same sort of mechanism. So the idea would be one API access point to get access to the raw data that services all of your products on the back end.
Okay, so August is being really humble right now because he has so like right currently before data delivery, there's this thing called VPN, and that was how agencies could get access to their data. And we always wanted to upgrade it and level it up, but the problem was always, how in the world do you send all of this data? I mean, you're talking about gigabytes, terabytes, tons, all the bytes of data to an agency, in real time or near real time. And he essentially like concocted in the lab, in the data lab of Vertafore, this way to do it efficiently and affordably. So I don't want to steal your thunder here. Can you talk through how?
Well, I think we have very innovative dev partners. I don't want to disrupt. I don't want to take away some of the innovation that some of our dev side has done. From a product perspective, we help kind of bring those things go to market, but that team came up with a way that we partner with on how to extract data into AWS in a Delta format to shorten access to data as a result of that. So it was a pretty neat approach in terms of how to not only extract data from core products and bringing it into AWS, but then also doing it in a way where we can turn that and make it consumable for customers. This API was actually created for internal use in order to move data from products from one to the other. And it was kind of, from a development perspective, it was something that was basically deemed as, well, this could be made available to clients as well for them to get that access. So it was kind of something that we took and we turned, and then we actually made it available for our customers as a result of that.
Does that look like something in effect like dashboards or like?
Yeah, how are people
set
using
of dashboards?
it?
How are
So
let's just say
extracting,
that's exciting. We see,
So a number of clients have been extracting data from us for years and building out their own sort of centralized data mart sort of strategy.
Yeah.
And by migrating to the API, they've shortened their ability to grab data, but then they're using the data on the back end to build their own sort of data visualization strategy. Like, how do they look at things like producer renewals? How do they want to report their financials to, if they're private equity back, to their shareholders? So it really becomes a lot of different data use cases for operational reporting, as well as like how do they report growth to shareholders.
I mean, as former agency owner and working in agencies, in managing salespeople, I think that's also an incredible tool to be able to hold your producers accountable, to be able to see what's going on. Where's their production, things like that. Are those some of the use cases you're seeing on a day-to-day? I see Jace shaking his head on this, but is that some of the things you're seeing as well?
So one of the things that we've done with clients, really kind of as a part of this data delivery like strategy, is we've gone on site and we've met with a lot of our clients, like CTOs or data sort of leaders, and we've started to kind of understand business requirements with the data. And a lot of that really kind of goes around cross-sell and renewal strategies, commission benchmarking, the concept of preferred carriers and how to manage carrier relationships, especially in a hard market. In certain parts of the country, the carriers that are entering and leaving with different appetites are coming more apparent. So not only is it being able to like deliver them data so they can get to those insights, but trying to like build a better path to building that blueprint for them and working with them on that front. So
Beautiful.
A big part of my roadmap comes from whiteboarding and ideating with some of our clients that are leveraging this data delivery strategy.
First of all, I got to say, like, I love when you're talking, like, to see Jace light up still, and he gets so excited about that. He's in it every day, but he still gets excited about it. I mean, you can see this big old smile on his face. He's all excited still. Like,
It's
I don't
awesome.
know. It's really cool to see the passion. And the other thing, channeling our audience here to hear what you just said of like, you guys are going into agencies and you guys are getting involved at that level. And it's not just some tech people that are really smart just guessing at what's going on. You guys are wanting to know what's going down. And this is not scripted, so if I'm wrong, we can edit this out, right, Chad? But my question to you, we had VJ in talking about the project he was working on. Do y'all have used some of the data he's collected from agencies for some of this stuff?
Oh yes.
Okay.
He's him and his team have spent a ton of time with agencies, literally sitting there, and I know there was a whole podcast around that.
Yeah, go
There's a
listen to that
lot of
one.
great insight there. Yeah. It's really cool to see, right, the types of things that we hear. But what was really exciting about that is the stuff that they saw that the customers weren't even thinking were challenges or issues. And so the amount of data that we have and that VJ and team have shared with us to continue to kind of look through, and there's a lot of organization around sort of how we take that input and bring that into our roadmaps is a big part of it. But I think to August's point earlier, we are spending a lot of time with our customers validating what we should do going forward, because there's so much evolution going on in this space right now. There needs to be that collaboration.
So let's dig into the second pillar that you mentioned, Jace, unified data. What kind of work are we doing around unified data when it comes to this OneCore backend strategy for AgencyOne?
Yeah, so there's a couple. So August spoke to sort of the unified data from the data aspect, from like the data delivery for reporting and bringing together the data mart. There's also another lens to this, which is looking at commonality that exists across the ecosystem and starting to come up with a framework that brings things together. For example, like one client, right? Client is something that exists across all of our products in one way, shape, or form. And so how do we bring that together, both from a visual perspective, but also from a data perspective, so that there is one notion of a customer across the entire set of the products. And so that's a big part of what we're doing. What's cool as a part of that is that allows for us to evolve and move more quickly, right, with what we're doing in terms of feature development. But most importantly, it also allows for us to identify net new opportunities, right, that maybe didn't before. So relationships is a key example, right? What more can we do around relationships in a client with this new model? And then obviously a lot of that then gets exposed through the work that August and team are doing with the data, right? And the data APIs. And so there's a lot of that we're looking at in terms of streamlining the backbone that exists across this technology.
Mm-hmm. August, I know you've been breaking ground, so very, 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 very early stages, like just even, looking at different solutions, supportive solutions, and kind of talking through strategy, ideating. But the idea here is we want to create this sort of centralized reporting system or schema that allows agents to get a holistic view of their business. Can you tell us a little bit more about that initiative?
Yeah, actually, Jace and I were on a call earlier about some of the tactical things we're trying to figure out there. So as a big part of centralizing data and making it available to customers through like one sort of like unique API, the other sort of piece that we're thinking about in terms of like a data centralization approach has to do a little bit with kind of like three core areas that we're thinking about, and Jace kind of covered them, but like how does master data management look across the board, across like what is the holistic view of a customer in all the different products that they serve, and like how do you actually kind of look at like the profitability of a customer versus the claims they may have filed or the transactions that you've seen in ImageRight, but their information lives in AMS 360 around the policies that they have in place and the revenue that they may be generating. And so I think a big part of a data centralization strategy allows for cross-product reporting capabilities as well as master data management. And then the other kind of big thing that we're thinking through is how that impacts our generative AI approach to what sort of things we can bring to the space to augment how clients leverage Vertafore products to serve their customers. And so there's kind of like three different things going right now with our data centralization approach of trying to think about how to build a kind of a master reporting kind of database where you can log into a centralized tool to see reporting for all Vertafore products that you've purchased in one centralized place. How do we think about master data management as it relates to stitching a customer across different products? And then how can we bring more generative AI use cases to our user base with the data that we have as well? So it's like kind of three different things that we're doing. And by centralizing the data and really spending almost a year trying to get our data in a place to where we can actually ideate on these things has really been the focus for what we'd be bringing down the pipe for 2025.
Brilliant.
I have an
Heath is like drooling right
I know.
now.
I have an off-script question because last night, at dinner, we had a conversation, and now you're like freaking out. What am I saying?
I am a little bit.
But we had this conversation of 5 or 6 years from now, when we look back at the time we're in right now.
Yeah.
Like Vertafore's doing, we are doing something special, like changing the industry forever. And that sounds like it's dramatic, but I truly believe the stuff that we're doing right now, that you guys are doing, is going to change the industry forever. Are you able to step outside and like really realize what we're doing right now? And if you are, like, what does that mean to you? And you able to do that right now?
I guess you want to go.
Do you want to go first, Jace, or like? I mean,
I'll hand it to you, and then I'll take my piece.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of like what we're capable of doing, I think we are taking a very thoughtful approach to figuring out how to bring generative AI in a thoughtful way to how we would incorporate it into the roadmap. And so doing lightweight proof of concepts and understanding what technology is out there and understanding how it transforms the business, I think is kind of like the goal that we have in mind for the next year. But the idea that we would of being that disruptive has definitely crossed my mind, because when you think about going into client offices and talking to them about their data strategy, a number of them have kind of said, we didn't even know that we'd be at a place of having these sort of conversations. And so the ideation for them has just begun to like sort of evolve, but like kind of telling them things that they may not have thought about of how they can change their business like in a very good way is probably the most exciting part for me. Like coming in and just having that consultative approach and thinking through what the future looks like for them and seeing that sort of connection like across the table like come alive is pretty amazing to me.
Yeah.
And Jace, for you, like you got your hands in a lot of things at AgencyOne, and we're doing some big time things here. Are you able to see that right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's been amazing, to be honest. And I think a big part of it has to do with the fact that people are starting to connect with the art of the possible, right? And I think that's the disruption that I think is fun to see, right? I think we all know this, especially those who've been around for a long time, and insurance is a slow moving tech adopter, right? But I think what we're seeing is a big shift towards where people are starting to be more thoughtful with a lot of the stuff August mentioned about what's the art of the possible here? What more can we do to help transform the way we use technology, right? The phrase we use often is using tech as a profit center, right? So how do you enable more growth with this technology? And I think so much is to be said with the data that August is bringing into play, how that becomes part of your natural workflow, the intuitiveness, right? It's just fun to see how people are starting to connect with that art of the possible and where we can go with this.
All right. So last but not least, let's touch on that last pillar, modern cloud infrastructure. Why is that important?
Well, I mean, one, it's important to be on a top-notch cloud infrastructure, right? That can support redundancy and can support uptime and performance and all that stuff. And being on a sort of a modern cloud allows for us to scale up very quickly, right? In our ecosystem, in our infrastructure. So as we see more API calls or as we see more usage of a given product, we're automatically spinning up more infrastructure versus sort of the old school ways of, do we have enough hardware in our toolkit to be able to actually handle this load? So that's a big part of it. The second piece, which is probably the most important, actually, is the modern infrastructure and tools that exists around how you deploy and how you roll out features. I'm going to bring up the topic of the day over the last couple of weeks, CrowdStrike.
Yeah.
I feel like they impacted every single person across the world in one way or form with what they did. And fundamentally, there were certain deployment strategies that they just didn't put in place, and they didn't have the proper automation to check certain things. And that's where these tools of these infrastructure come into play to really help protect and prevent some of those types of things from happening. We all are still dealing with that in many cases. And so it's a big part of our partnership and moving to the cloud infrastructure is not just the cloud infrastructure itself, but also enabling tools from a deployment and QA and checking perspective to make it easier for us to move things faster.
All right, I don't want to ask the last question because I
Well,
would
then let me
much
get one more
rather
in.
I would much rather stay on with these guys.
Yeah.
I think we could probably talk for like another hour or two. Jace, what's the timing? When can people expect all of this come to life in their systems?
So here's the deal. It's coming to life now. I mean, August talked about the data side of things, right? We've rolled it out for AMS 360. We've got Sajita, Benefit Point, ImageRight, Risk Match, all coming this year, right? So it's coming to life now. We have people using that. APIs, we're starting to make progress on full functionality. Benefit Point is now fully capable with our REST modern endpoints, right?
Mm-hmm.
That exists. And so as we think about our AWS migration and moving to the cloud, many of our products are now there, right? And we're continuing over the next year to move the rest of our products into that infrastructure. And so we are working on that now, and much of it has actually already come to life for our users.
I love it. Jace, August, you guys are two of the smartest people I've ever met personally.
Besides me.
Besides you, sure.
Right?
Fair enough. Sorry, guys. Besides Heath, you two are the smartest people that I've ever met. No, but seriously, and just two of the best humans, two people who really truly care about what they're doing. So thank you for coming on and sharing a little bit more in detail the work on the back end, which we call OneCore. And best of luck over the next couple months. I know there's a big launch coming at the end of the year.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
We're very excited about.
And Jace, you got off the hook. You teased us last time you were going to tell us what was going on that big meeting you're in. We let you off the hook on that. You didn't have to tell us too much there, right?
Jace is always in big meetings, capital
That's right.
P, capital M.
So, yeah. Anyhow, yeah, I'm sure we'll see you again another episode down the road. But thank you guys both, and y'all have a great day.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Man, what a great episode.
Dude, that was fire. Just it made me think, you know?
Yeah, you always like those. I always like the ones that give me heartburn, the spicy episodes.
The spicy ones.
I mean, you do have to get your Rolaids out every once in a while.
I do, because we got some great guests that we had to share their opinions. We had to get that out there.
Well, and listen, that's not the last great guest we're going to have. We got so many more lined up this season.
You got to come back every single time. And how do you do that? How do they do that? How do they?
I'm going to tell him, man.
You got to tell him.
Go to YouTube, hit the subscribe button, or make sure that you follow us on your favorite podcast channel.
And I'm watching the numbers, so I'll know if you hit subscribe or not. So
He stalks.
I do. So make sure you hit that subscribe button or it's going to hurt my feelings. You don't want to do that now. So come back next week. Hang out with us. We got another amazing guest. See you on the
Peace.
next one.